Dude.
Dude.
I'm
Hell
having
of a
bougie
day. Yeah, it's a hell of a day.
Hell of a day. So today,
Busy.
we're gonna at least get into the part one. I don't know if we'll get to the whole thing, but we're gonna get into the part one of a conversation that I feel like needs to be had. It's super important. And I think the way I'll start this out is just by going over a bit of history. So you'll know all about this dude, and anybody else watching is just going to be able to learn about me and us. You could chime in with memories and whatnot, and all that. And
Sarcastic quips.
Yes, sarcastic quip. Building this thing on this kind of a history thing is going to make it so that then when I,
Put the cherry on top.
Yeah, put the cherry on top. Fill in some of the really substantial blanks. It will maybe be something of a huh or an aha, or maybe, I don't know how people can hear this, but it'll be kind of a thing, because right now people watching this can see me on camera. They can see what I look like. They see that I'm a dude, and here you go. And
Long-haired dude. Long-haired rocker dude.
Like a regular bro. And
no.
this is where the conversation's going to go. So, as we've probably alluded to many times before, and everybody knows, we're both from Portland, Oregon, Sean and myself. I actually grew up in
Hence the accents.
Smaller town outside of Portland, but I consider P-Town my hometown, and I love that town. I really do. I'm so bummed to see it kind of going through some problems.
But that's all towns. It's almost all towns. It's
sure,
all towns.
Sure.
And with Oregon, Portland's always something.
One of the key factors in my life that shaped my childhood and shaped my adulthood, and really doesn't shape much of my life anymore, but it's still a factor there hanging out, because I have 9 brothers and sisters, 5 boys, 5 girls, mom and dad, all one marriage. Mom and dad made it to past 50 years.
Nothing says Mormon more than that.
Yes, we were Catholic.
Oh.
No, Sean was right. Raised Mormon, and so that was an enormous factor in my childhood, which I would consider to be, all things considered, but comparatively excellent. I had a great childhood.
Cool.
I could certainly think of situations were worse.
Yes.
So the big problem was, if you could call it a problem, and I probably would call it a problem, is that my dad was absolutely hung up on the Mormon Church, believed in it wholly, believed in it till the day he died, and it was on that day that he gave it up completely. If only that were true. Believed in it till the day he died. Insisted on everyone in the family holding to those beliefs and holding to those the behaviors that are integrous with that belief. So there you go. The upshot of that was I moved out at a pretty young age, again comparatively. Ran away from home when I was 16. Didn't stay gone very long, just overnight, before freezing to death in that park and going, okay, this was a crap idea.
Trial run.
Yeah. Borrowed a phone. This was before the days of cell phones, so the only way I could borrow a phone was to knock on somebody's door in Cedar City, Utah, and be like, hi, I need to borrow your phone. And they were, and the thing that blows my mind still to this day is that there were like 2 houses first who looked at me. And I had short hair back in those days. It was cropped, cut. Because the whole reason I had run away from home is because my dad had cut my hair. Seriously, that was it. That was what
traumatic, though.
Yeah,
that's a trauma.
Triggered me from run away from home. So I don't look like a hoodlum. I'm just a kid, 16 years old. I didn't look 16. I looked younger. I was like, I need to borrow your phone. And one old lady was like, you need to go away right now before I call the police.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have fond memories of Cedar City, Utah. Truly, I do. I love that town. It's not a bad place, but that poor lady was traumatized by something. I have no what. Anyway, finally got somebody who was like, "Yeah, by all means, come in, use the phone." Called up Dad. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm in Cedar City, ran away. So I had to eat some crow. I didn't mean to go in so long on that particular memory, but I think it just kind of hopefully
That is
spells out.
a little
Go ahead.
indicative of Utah and of the times, because runaways in Utah are chronic because I think of the general oppression of Mormonism.
It
I think,
certainly could
and the
be.
family oppression in many ways, because when we were living there together, there were a lot of runaways in the news, and a lot of them hung out with us
There was some
on the
dysfunction
roof
too.
and downtown.
On a per capita basis, I mean, when you're thinking about the population of a town, that is probably high. I mean, because hell, we used to hang out downtown Portland, and there would be runaways galore down there. But we're talking about a city with, how big is P-town? The metro area is 500,000, right? More,
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know, somewhere right around there. Not small. Manti, Utah, Cedar City, Utah. We're talking 2,000, maybe 3,000 people for on a
Yeah.
good year. So if you've got any, if you've got any bulk number of kids that are disgruntled, runaways, what have you, that's going to be probably a high percentage.
And it was a topic. I remember it being a topic regularly
Yeah.
when I was there. It came up a lot, enough that I noticed. Since I wasn't from that area, I noticed that when the topic came up. Are you hearing all that stuff? I apologize. Go ahead.
No worries. So, uh, went back home, obviously, like you do. Stayed for another 6 months, and then I was offered a musical gig, an actual pay-in musical gig, and I left home, and that was it. I shouldn't say that was it, because there was a period, what was it, 2 or 3 years later, when I actually did technically, if you want to get downright technical, did move back home. But it was only after Mom and Dad had actually moved out, and we were house sitting.
So you didn't
So,
move back home. You moved into their house while they were gone.
and funnily enough, even while we were house sitting, we had a visit from Dad, who, when he came in and saw us house sitting, saw us how we were sitting the house, decided that he no longer needed us to house sit, that he would rather have the house sit unoccupied, and I think that had to do with Sean being there with his satanic books.
They did not like me. I have come to realize quite clearly I am not safe space for many people. So I apologize for the inconvenience that I made for you on I know many occasions, but I do not apologize for making them uncomfortable. I hope I made their skin crawl.
Yeah, I'm sure you did, and you don't need to apologize for anything like that. Having you as a friend in my life was far more rewarding, short term and long term, than anything that there was, having to be in terms of sacrifice. Anyway, I don't want to
Glad I
totally
could be there.
demonize my dad here. That's going to be something else for other people to do, because we're just talking about what I experienced as a child and a teenager,
Right.
and it wasn't horrible, and I was definitely a little shit. I had my shitty moments. I didn't like getting my hair cut though. That was something that I wanted to have long hair. Just a thing. I wanted to have long hair. So, when I did move out of the house, I started growing my hair out, and I never cut it since. Never. So, this whole conversation is really going to be, quite frankly, if nothing else, it's going to be instructive for any parents out there who have children, and they're going, okay, so how can I, shape my child into this whatever kind of shape of a person you want to shape them into. Here, this conversation is really going to involve a possible do's and don'ts, and that's the most I can tell you, because
Fingers crossed.
I don't have children. I don't have a single biological child of my own that we know
Neither way. Me either. Raised a lot of them though.
of. Yeah, poorly myself. With all that said, there you go. Moved out of the house. I went through about a 3-year depression, and I was prone to depression already. I learned later that my parents were both prone to depression. Something that I kind of sort of knew about my mom. It wasn't that I just knew it. I didn't know how to diagnose it. There was just days when she didn't want to get out of bed. And I thought, well, maybe she had a late night, or maybe she was feeling not well, whatever the case was. Learned later that was depression. Dad was also prone to depression, but he covered it up very stoically, like you do. And he had his moments. I wasn't there for any of those, but I was certainly
because you
there.
got out.
Yeah, I was there for my own depression, and my own depression was horrible. As a teenager, I had suicidal thoughts all the time. Wasn't even a thing to think suicidal thoughts. And the depression that I experienced after moving out was 100% with regards to, did I want to remain being a Mormon or not? And that was a hell of a thing, because I had Mormonism drilled into me from a very young age. And it is what Mormons do. I'm so sorry to have to say that. Mormonism as a church, as an organization, as a body of people, I think they're all very fine people, great people. That's awesome. But drilling that kind of stuff into young children is just not good.
It's religion. It's not just Mormonism.
Yeah.
Mormonism, I think, is one of the worst, but religion has long recognized that you can't convince an adult past the age of reason that there's an invisible man in the sky. It's very difficult. But for a child that is programmed by nature to trust its parents, and they don't know the difference between reality and fantasy, that's when religions get them. So that is a religion thing. I think it's child abuse. I think it's offensive, and I have always railed against it.
So
always.
even after I managed to get myself out of the Mormon Church, and by say managed, I'll tell you that there is so much group follow-up, what do you call it? Manipulation. They're calling you all the time. They're stopping by. They're knocking on the door. The missionaries come over. Seen you at church, And
then they do gang techniques where they pressure you, they threaten you, they will threaten to take away support, all the stuff that gangs do. It's just another gang.
Just like Jehovah's Witnesses and Scientologists, you're going to get the same basic manipulative crap out of them. And probably, I would probably dare say, I don't know for sure on this, but I would say that it's probably not to the volume of Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons. And if I'm correct about that, then all I can say is I really feel bad for Jehovah's Witnesses, and I feel horrible for Scientologists, because what I went through was utter hell, and it made me want to freaking do this shit. Okay? So, at the end of that 3-year period, I had kind of adjusted myself to being a decently happy person. I had been with a girl, my very first love, lost my virginity at 19, and this girl was awesome. I was horrible to her. I was total shit. And that was going to be kind of a running theme.
Did I meet her?
Forward. Because I was always in a nightclub playing gigs. There were always chicks coming stepping to me. Some of them were even hot.
Happens,
and,
here and there.
Yeah. It's like I always said, you could be as ugly as a freaking toad. If you play guitar in a band, you're going to have hot chicks stepping to you, wanting to,
Yep.
throwing their panties at you, brassieres, whatever, crumpled up notes written on the napkins, and want to fuck your brains out. All that.
You can always find the groupies.
I
know.
It
was you first.
Damn it.
It was you first. Ha ha.
Right. So I was horrible to my first girlfriend, and any girl that I had that a relationship that I had that lasted longer than 6 months for me at that point, I considered long term 6 months, was a total crap too, and would find some reason to break up, or I would manipulate her into breaking up with me, and it was just my MO. It was shitty. Music. God.
Yes.
So, Sean and I met.
We should get back to that topic a lot at some point.
Sean and I met in the summer of 1990, I want to say. Is that right? Was that your memory serves?
Yeah. Yep. Somewhere in 1990 at McDonald's.
He was working at McDonald's. I was between gigs. I was also between girlfriends. I had just been booted out. Running joke. I'm a musician without a girlfriend.
Homeless.
So
It's not as funny when you're in it, though, is it?
no, I was couch surfing, and I got this job at McDonald's. Met Sean, and you just really, you really just I don't even know how to say it.
I had to be
And
traumatizing for you.
You hit it. We hit it off immediately in
Yeah.
terms of the buddy bro thing, and it just
Dungeons and Dragons was the big part.
D&D. And we never looked back. It was really just a really cool friendship for me, particularly. I'd never had a friendship like that, and I'd had plenty of
I had not
good
either.
friends.
You were charisma incarnate when I first saw you. You're like 8 feet tall with giant blonde hair. You had
look at me
a kind of a California vibe to you, and I was a hometown Northwest kid working at McDonald's. No, you were magic. You were adventure in motion.
I saw you just as somebody that was really a different, thought differently, talked differently from anybody I'd ever met. And that was just hugely refreshing. So Sean got me into working out. And frankly, it was a huge thing for me because
Yeah, I have questions about this.
sure, working out became a way for me to project myself as a total alpha, which I wanted to be. I was sick and tired of people thinking that I was androgynous. I was sick and tired of people thinking I was gay. I wanted to be alpha, and I wanted to step to chicks or have chicks step to me and just be like, "Oh my God," because am still, and always probably will be into the pussy.
Right.
I love the chicks.
But it's sad how working out and getting big and muscular never stopped any of that. Never stopped the androgyny. Never stopped the cat calls.
It was unfortunate, but
It stopped them from getting close to us because of at some point I knew I could pick up their truck and smash it over the top of their head. So I know it gave us a distance, a protection, but I know we always got never stopped getting the harassment.
It gave me a different level of confidence. I always got my confidence from being a musician. It's the walk. I call it the walk. When I have a gig, when I have a good gig especially, I have a walk, and it's I mean I don't want to play it up or anything like that. I mean, get it on video sometime, but it's kind of a rock star walk. It's
The cock
swagger.
walk. Yeah.
It's a definite swagger. If you got your guitar in its gig bag slung over your shoulder,
You're in your place of power. Yeah, I totally get it.
untouchable.
Yeah.
I walk into the club. It's my cat box. I own it. I'd mark my territory. It's all. This is how I operated back in those 20s days. So
And all very
music
shallow.
was never a way to make a ton of money, and I struggled financially all my life. Almost all of my life, I struggled financially, and it was. I don't want to make any excuses about that because it was just me. I always wanted to try the next thing. I've tried MLMs. I've tried businesses. I wanted to, I had a lot of failures, and I kept trying. I'm still trying today.
You and billions of other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't feel too bad about it.
What I never did do was, in any scalable way, was college. And I kind of lived to regret that, but I was doing music. So I can't make any excuses about not going to college. It's just not what I did. I did music. I still do music. So going through my 20s, Sean's my good buddy. We're working out. We're having a good time. We had our adventures. We had a road trip. And on the road trip, which we had a ton of adventures on, that was an epic road trip, life-changing. I know Sean will go into some detail of that at some point.
It was life before and after the road trip. That's still how I see it. Even with all the adventures I have, there's still the chapter before the road trip, and then the road trip was a chapter, and then after the road trip. There were definite chapters in life.
It was a heck of a time. It was driving through Texas, hot as hell. We didn't have air conditioning in the car. This was 1991, and no air conditioning in the car. We'd wet down bandanas and put them on our head, and that was how we cooled off with the windows down. 255 all the way.
Rickety Toyota SR5.
Yeah. Oh, packed to the rafters with all of my stuff.
Yeah.
So between Shreveport and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Sean and I had a conversation. And the conversation basically consisted of me trying to sell to Sean that God was real, and Sean trying to sell to me that God was indeed not real. I was already out of the Mormon church. That wasn't a thing. I knew it wasn't Mormon. I knew that Joseph Smith wasn't a real prophet, so that wasn't a problem. That was obvious, not even a question. But I still believed in God, and there was Sean selling me on this for the first time of anybody ever really trying to sell me on the notion that God wasn't a thing. And it was the first of many of our frustrating conversations. Not that I ever stopped loving Sean. That there was nothing about a frustrating conversation with Sean with you that made me think, oh, I can't really have this guy as a buddy of mine anymore. There's, anything like that. I was just like, man, one of these days I've got to sell Sean on this concept.
I think you were arguing against yourself. You already had doubts. The fact that you were having the conversation, or that you even wanted me as a friend, most people that don't have doubts or that are still in it, I'm a threat to. That's why I'm dangerous space, and you were drawn to it. You were drawn to it. So you were already trying to test yourself.
So what I was really dealing with, and I wasn't at all ready to admit this in 1991, but I sure did finally come to it when I hit the age of about 29 or 30, was that I was extremely, extremely, deeply, passionately pissed off at God. Very mad. Horribly
As you
mad.
should be.
Yeah.
As you should have been.
And what that gradually morphed into was, if there is a God, I'm going to bitch slap that mother. And then I finally graduated into, there just really can't be a God. But if there is one, then I'm going to bitch slap him. But there probably isn't. And then
There probably isn't.
A very strict atheism for a few years, and kind of tapered off to agnosticism, although I really don't consider there to be a material difference between the two. Atheists and agnostics can argue that all day long if they want. I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's not even worth popcorn to me. And as far as I was concerned, in 2008, the jury was in on whether God was real or not. When I say
Or whether
jury,
you needed to worry.
I'm talking about the internet jury. There was people on the Christian side and on the theist side going, God, 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 God. And there was very smart people. Who were the big skeptics back in those days?
The Four Horsemen of...
I'm talking about YouTubers, though. Like Fake Sagan. You remember
The Amazing
Fake Sagan?
Atheist. I remember
The
Fake
Amazing
Sagan.
Atheist.
I
a
remember
lot of
all
them
those.
had
The Peach.
their issues.
Yeah, there was hundreds. I followed them all.
Yeah.
Me. Us.
You.
Yeah.
And me.
Yeah.
The atheist.
Yeah.
And as far as I was concerned, it was just like, no more. Even discussions between atheists and Christians was not even worth popcorn anymore, because it was just like, there was just nothing they could say. Same circular arguments, just sucked.
Yeah.
I felt bad for them, frankly. I felt like a pistol whipping a blind kid. So, that's out of Tropic Thunder.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Fine.
Where did that one come from? Okay. I'm usually on. I'm usually on the lines, but that one
Tropic
went by me.
Thunder, such a brilliant movie, and
Yes.
and it was probably one of the last of the movies that could never be made today.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's been a handful of good movies that have come out over the last 40 years that could not be made today. Blazing Saddles,
Yeah.
and I think Tropic Thunder was the last of them.
I think something could still be made, but
You think somebody's going to get away with blackface in this culture? Not right now.
yeah, I think they would if they leaned into it. But it's the intent. It's the reason
Man.
for it. It's
Yeah, they would really have to lean into it. And,
Yeah.
And
Seth Rogen, I think, could probably pull something off.
well, I'd like to see that. So I was very, very, very pissed at God, and I went through my atheist journey, and on the outside of it, I came to this notion that I wanted to live forever, if that was possible. I sort of still feel that way today, although I don't hold out as much hope for it now as I used to, and it's I don't know how much that faith in the notion of living forever really serves me. But I do hope that maybe someday, in 50 million years, I'll be somewhere still doing something. Still somewhere, still doing something.
As long as you want to.
As long as I want to.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if that'll be the case. I love to learn, and I still consider myself learning every day.
Oh.
I do my best, and I fancy that if there was any single God that I could bow myself down to, that I would have to be subject to, it would be that God of the gaps, that God that is my own ignorance, what I don't know, which is vast. That is a huge universe out there that I don't know. That is the God. I bowed to it because I don't know. How are you supposed to stand up and not salute what you don't know? I think that what you don't know will pistol whip you whether you like it or not.
Or just accept it. In my mind, I'm going, bow down to the God of ignorance. Somehow.
Well, it's not that I'm worshiping. It's not that I'm worshiping
Right.
ignorance.
Right.
I'm just going. I have to be subject to what I don't know.
Yes.
Certainty lends itself to a, possible hubris, which I don't even want to say is a bad thing. Hubris over certainty. Just certainty in itself could, maybe lead you to bad things if you're not careful. So just watch it.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad people that are certain about a lot of bad things. So
how'd I do on basically talking about my life? Where I'm at right now, just real quick. I have a job that I like. It's a highly specialized job, so it's the kind of job that you don't go to college to get. I make middle-class wages, so I have a middle-class lifestyle, and I still play gigs like crazy. So my work week is easily 60 hours, between 40 hours on a job and maybe 20 hours a week of the gigs throughout the day, throughout the week. There's my middle-class lifestyle. Still don't have money figured out yet, although I'm making strides.
most people do not. We are not alone.
Yeah. And in terms of that, I'm probably very blessed because I have not been completely smacked hard by the Biden economy.
You think
And I know
the Biden economy is bad? I'm going to choose not to argue politics and economics on this podcast.
Oh, on this. Well, it's not that we have. There's plenty of time to argue, but I don't know that there's any argument over that the economy has gone to complete crap.
No, the economy is awesome. Billionaires are making billions and billions more.
Billionaires.
No, the economy. You look at the stocks, they're all up. Economy is doing great. The workers are being crushed, which, like I was saying, I don't want to argue capitalism or the economy or Biden over Trump or who had better ideas. And I hope I don't ever have to argue over who had better ideas, Biden or Trump. Because I don't like either of them. I don't like either of them. But the economy is great.
I need to push back on the stocks, though. They're not up. Stocks are not kicking right now.
Compared to what they were under Trump?
Yeah.
No, they're all up. They're up. It's all right. Let's not argue
Look at the graphs right
capitalism.
here, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Nope.
Okay.
In a terrible economy, billionaires are still making billions.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It is what
the problem isn't
gotta-
if billionaires are making billionaires and everybody else is suffering, the problem isn't the economy.
Huh.
The
Okay.
problem is the billionaires.
Well, that comes back to the whole concept of wealth being kind of a finite thing.
That's a rabbit hole. We will have podcast after podcast after podcast arguing. I promise.
Cool.
We can go around in circles with that.
One of the cool things about this whole conversation that we're having today is that it will hopefully kind of spell out the genesis of at least some of my ideas, and as we fill in some of the blanks on our history, Sean's ideas as well. And it does kind of lend itself to a little bit of an epiphany in that when you do find out what any particular person has been through, you're going to have some idea, at least hopefully a better idea, of the genesis of their ideas, the genesis of their values, why they think the way they do. And if you find yourself at total odds with somebody, where you're going like, well, where do you get that idea? Well, this is where you get that idea.
Yep. There's always reasons.
So how did
It's
you
usually
personal
trauma.
history? Is there some blanks you want to fill in? Did I cover? I mean, I kind of skimmed over the 20s and definitely skimmed over the 30s, but
you skimmed over the whole businesses, the real estate title insurance
title
company,
and,
the recording studio, the loft, the granular experiences you skimmed. Generally, I think you got it. We met at McDonald's. You got a gig in Florida, and I quit my job. I mutilated my car by bolting a wooden rack onto the top of it. Packed up all your stuff, and we headed out on adventure. Stayed with your brother, and in his house, which was it was a giant McMansion that was totally gutted after divorce. Was it divorce?
Yeah. He gave up all the furniture. So that
I was introduced to Klaatu, to which I have been eternally grateful. From what was his buddy there?
John.
John.
I don't want to say any names, but yeah, John.
He's a little creepy. So introduced to a lot of music. Was the first time I had been on an adventure. Sure, that was. Yeah, it was an adventure. Yeah, you got it generally. Generally, I think I could pick out some specific events that were momentous, but the general idea. Your dad also, not to make a big deal out of this, but he wasn't just Mormon. He was a conservative capitalist. He was one of those where the government was anti-government. The government. He was a 1776 guy, if I'm remembering.
Yeah, that's a good detail to throw in there.
He was, because you absorbed a shit ton of that.
Yes, I sure did.
To my great frustration.
I can actually tell you where a lot of that came from. Really original. Obviously, Dad was very anti-government, and he had never really gone into a lot of detail about that throughout my childhood and teenage years. He was more about going into detail of the church. But when I was in my very early 20s, I want to say about 22 years old, I pulled a book off of his bookshelf that was by a dude, I want to say Philip Marsh.
That sounds familiar.
I can't remember.
Philip Marsh sounds familiar.
And then I also read a book at the same time by, can't think of his name, Irwin. His son Peter is now a political and economic pundit. Peter, he's on the radio.
Schrodinger?
No. But it is something.
Rommel?
Schwab, Peter, Irwin, Schweib, Peter Strobe. Peter.
Sure, it wasn't Schrodinger.
No, that's too long. Peter.
Oh,
He's
hold
on the
on.
radio still today all
Yeah,
the time. Peter.
hold on, hold that thought for just 1 second. I gotta address a issue.
Anyway, Irwin wrote a book. It's all about anti-taxes. Sean can't hear any of this, but I'll just keep going since he's got headphones off. I've read these books, and they were kind of talking about how taxes were illegal, Social Security was the government's legal way of stealing from you, very anti-government. They wanted to strip down the size of government, take it back to, like Sean was saying, 1776.
Okay.
I still feel this way. Okay, Sean's back.
Okay. Sorry, Dad. Dad's a little tired. Okay, good.
That's cool. I was carrying on about how Irwin.
What's his name? Good old. You never forget him.
Yeah. Peter. Dang it! I don't know why I can't think of his name, and it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Not Erwin Peterman.
No.
Pedersen?
Peter. We don't have to find this out. I don't know. Maybe.
Minke? No.
No.
I don't know. Okay, move on. Somebody else say it in chat, and we'll think that we're both idiots. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the chat.
Yeah.
Help us out with that one. So I read those books, and that's when I kind of... Reading those books put me into a tailspin of depression for probably a month, because it totally shook up my entire worldview. I had thought that, the justice system was a good thing, the judges were all honest and upright. I'd known a judge from church,
And how could a God-fearing judge be wrong?
How could they be a bad guy? And the cops were... I thought cops were good people, and these books were kind of like saying, oh, no, we're this close to living in a police state, everything's horrible. And these books were written in the 80s,
Well, that's when it was happening. That's when it was starting.
So I knew that at that point, after having some discussions with my dad, that he was very much of the same mindset as some of those crazy lunatic guys at the time that were, doing their right-wing militia stuff up in Michigan. The Michigan,
Yep.
I don't know if they had a name or whatever. Back in those days, it was the right-wing militia guys in Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now they're everywhere.
Yeah, Dad had some kind of ideas about that sort of thing, and so did my brothers. So it was very much
far right wing. You were far right wing. They were far right wing.
I would want to say that there's definite caveats to that.
Sure, well, as with everything.
While I've never been a huge fan of the welfare state, and by never I mean absolutely never. If there was one thing that Dad bred in me, it was that you're going to stand up and you're going to take care of your damn self, and you're going to be responsible for your damn self, and you're not going to rely on handouts ever. Just don't. So there you go. I don't. Never did. Even while I was.
And we will go around and around about it.
Yeah. Also, I think there is a stigma of racism to the far right, and it's so easy for somebody to step up in front of a camera or step up in front of a group of people and say, I don't have a racist bone in my body or anything like that, and you get, yeah. And to that, all I can really say is racist is as racist does.
Yeah. I do make a distinction, and I am nuanced about it. I do generalize a lot. But my statement is that right-wing Christian Americans aren't all racist. But a lot of racists are right-wing Christian.
Dig.
And there's far less racists in left-wing atheism. Generalizations, but generally there's more racism on the right wing, conservative, patriot, that kind of thing, versus left-wing socialist. They have
yeah.
other issues, but racism is the right has to own it, and the left has to own their shit too. So
Well,
I'm not, but I get it.
I've been known to call out racism when I see it, and I don't stand for it.
Good.
In conversation, in regular conversation between people, you know.
I've never, when I say you were raised right-wing extremist, Mormon, white, Christian, right-wing, anti-government extremist. I kind of know why, but I'm generally shocked every time I don't see you in a camouflage vest storming the Capitol. That kind of thing. But that's not you. You're right-wing conservative capitalist. You didn't attach yourself to the white superior, the white nationalism. You attached yourself to economics, the economics of the thing, and so that's where you separated.
So, with all this history down, and I've got about maybe 10 more minutes before I've got to bail, I'm going to now...
Oh, this really is a part one. Okay.
I'm going to... Well, I was going to say I can fill in the blanks, or I can save it to next time.
However you want to go. I'm in it for the ride.
Let's go there. I think I can do this in 10 minutes if I don't get terribly hung up on anything seriously weird. And besides that, I don't go into major detail. But here's the thing. So you've got my history, and you've kind of got a general overall, a 30,000-foot view of my childhood and my teenage years and upbringing, and I'm prone to depression. So right now, in current year, and current year is 2023, so we'll just say 2023, there is an enormous kerfuffle about grooming kids. And in particular, there's an enormous kerfuffle about whether or not there should be gender-affirming care for children. In particular, irreversible surgeries.
Right.
But even if you want to just go to the other, which would be hormones, which may or may not have either long-term effects or even permanent effects on how a young child develops into adulthood. There's huge. And the people who are arguing for this on both sides have got very entrenched ideas.
Yeah.
So here I am. I'm 54 years old. I graduated in 1987, and I went to grade school during the 70s.
Traumatic all by itself.
I am a living, breathing, walking, talking argument. I mean, I personally am. I don't make this argument myself, but I am an argument for gender-affirming care for minors. That's not easy to say. It's horrible. And I got to plug in my laptop real quick. But I'm just going to keep talking.
Okay.
And let me tell you why I say that I'm that argument. Because it's not something that I would just sit there and say, oh yeah, if a kid calls himself transgender, you should definitely hook him up with some hormones right now. Get him on that testosterone blocker, because holy crap, it's going to just make everything perfect for them. I would not say that. Here's what I would say. I would say that if in my grade school years I'd had a single teacher who could have looked at me and identified what I was going through, and I'm not saying that they could have because I hid it so well. But there's a reason that I hid it well.
Mormon
Remember
church.
my dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, Mormonism has got very defined gender roles, and there was absolutely no effing way I was ever going to be able to tell my dad as a kid what I was going through. And I can tell you exactly right now what I was going through. And I'll tell you, this is for all of the listeners out there. This is exactly what is not being said out there. Here you go. At night, I'd go to sleep. As a kid, 2, 3, 4 years old, I would go to sleep, and I would dream my true gender. My true gender, which was female. I would dream it. I would wake up in the morning and be completely dysphoric about reality. I was like, what is real? Are the dreams real, or is this real? I couldn't figure it out. I was probably 5 years old before I could differentiate between what I dreamt at night and what I was living through in my day. It was so mind-boggling. At 5 years old,
You already
I was
knew.
cross-dressing with my sisters. And I was so glad to have two sisters who were kind of open to that. One in particular, Meg, who was close to my age. She was only 4 years old. She did not understand what I was going through, but she had no idea. She wasn't dysphoric.
Yeah. She probably
And so-
didn't. She was no idea and didn't care. She was just dressing
we would
up.
play house, and we were all the girls. And I was just trying to figure it out. And frankly, it was the happiest I ever was. I was never found out by my parents for this. This is something they just had, as far as I know, they had no idea. In 2015, when I came out to them, I totally blindsided them with all of this crap. And Dad died a year later, still wishing that I hadn't told him. Seriously, he wished I hadn't told him.
I that doesn't surprise me at all, and it
Yeah.
breaks my heart for you.
It's all
That
okay.
that had to.
We move on with things.
Yeah.
So at 8 years old in the Mormon church, you get baptized. And that's when you decide for sure that you're going to be a Mormon for the rest of your life, and live a perfect life and everything else. And I knew
Because
at
at 8
time,
years old, you know.
I knew at that time that cross-dressing was not good, and that I had to be like, I had to make a decision that I was going to be a boy. And I hated it, because at 8 years old, I still dreamed every night that I had no wang. Could not stop. It was just a thing. I dreamt. So, if parents out there, here you go. This is your test for your children. If your child is playing with Barbie dolls, not a thing. If your little boy is playing with Barbie dolls, not a thing. If your little boy is dressing up as a girl, not a thing. If your little boy comes to you and says, "I dream of being a girl at night," you've got to
That's
ask
the
him
thing.
one question: do you ever dream of being a boy? Because if they answer, no, not really, no, I never do dream of being a boy, you've got a transgender.
Yep.
Or at least that's your best way of finding out. At that point, you can at least entertain the notion of getting counseling for the child and figuring out for sure, because that child, not some kid who's just playing with Barbies or whatever, or hanging out with the local tom girl, that's not it.
Or
That
even wearing
is the-
dresses. You can
Yeah,
be
or even wearing
manly.
dresses.
You can be fully manly and wear a dress.
Right. They may be dysphoric. You just don't know. I couldn't say for sure. But if the child is dreaming at night that they're the other gender, and it's ubiquitous, it's chronic, it happens every night, you've got a real strong case right there. If you are entrenched in a religion that says, no, there's gender roles, we can't let this happen, you're going to ruin that child's life. Or at least, I shouldn't say that. You are at risk of ruining that child's life. I shouldn't say be so hyperbolic.
The religion, the churches are more hyperbolic than that.
Yeah.
So
If-
you can't be too hyperbolic about this.
Maybe not. If you're wondering how to tell, that's how to tell. There you go. There's a little hack from your Aunt Barbara. Okay? Usually I say there's a hack from your Uncle Paul. But
Yep.
in this case, I'm technically in guy mode here, so I'm not going to be too crazy. And frankly, on this camera, you'll probably never see me being too crazy. For anybody who wonders, you're just going to have to imagine what I look like, all freaking dragged out, because you might be looking at the video camera here and just going, "Oh my God, that one ugly lady," and you're probably right.
No.
At least makeup does some wonderful things and can help me pass. And this is where we get to more meat and bones. So let me fill in a little bit more history now. Puberty. At that point, I still dreamed that I was a girl at night. Obviously, like you do. I never stopped dreaming.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with my mom as I was coming out to her. I said, "Mom, did you ever have a dream at night where you were a man, where you were just standing there as a man, all naked with your wang swinging?" She says, "No."
No,
I
of
said,
course not.
"Neither have I." So, my poor mom, because I rake her over the coals, um, I, I, I really kind of punish her for being so uh, theist, and I probably should be nicer to her, but I'm not. I'm a real, just a shitty kid. That's what I do.
You've been traumatized
Perhaps.
from birth, and you feel bad for giving your mother shit. I am actually initially glad you didn't come out to them early for for support, because you would not have gotten the support you needed.
No, I would
You
have
would
gotten
have gotten
re-education.
abuse and sent to one of those places where they do waterboarding and torture to kids
Possibly.
to make them straight.
Right.
Uh,
So,
and that would have been worse.
yeah, as I'm going into puberty, here I have dreams of developing breasts. My worst dream in going through puberty was the one where I'm in high school, I'm butt naked. People are going, "Oh my God, Beach is a girl?" And I'm going, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Well.
didn't anymore." And that there you go. And and to top it all off, to deal with the dysphoria, I cross dressed. Again, I had to cross dress. And it was the only way. Those moments of cross dressing, which was done very difficultly because, house was full of people all the time. So in the privacy of my own room, able to cross dress a little bit, hour or two a day, maybe if I was lucky, was the only time that I could feel comfortable in my own skin while I was awake. And that was it. I managed to get through high school.
I don't
Puberty,
know how you don't do drugs and
yeah.
other stuff. I
The other, the
I
other
would have
thing
been
during
violent.
Yeah, the other thing during puberty was that I had, in addition to the suicidal thoughts, I had thoughts of castrating myself. I said, well, you know what? If I just cut this thing off, at least I wouldn't have that down there. At least there wouldn't be that, because I really, really hated my wang, and even still to this day, I have a love-hate relationship with it. It's my sex tool. So I'm like going, well, at least I can get it on with chicks, and I do like chicks. Uh, just in case my girlfriend ever sees this too, I've got to say I love my girlfriend. She is the love of my life. We've been together now for 6 years. She's absolutely fantastic, and I have never had any problem at all with my head turning towards other chicks, looking around, or anything like that, which was a problem that I had all throughout my life. So I was saying some girl, I'd be seeing some girl, and then well, like the meme, like the meme.
Yeah.
That was me. I was the guy in the meme. Okay, so cross-dressed all through puberty, going into high school, it got worse. When I got to the
You
first
mean
girl that
better?
I've lived with and whatnot, should have come out to her. Didn't. She had to have known I was wearing her clothes during the day. I don't know how she couldn't have. Maybe she didn't. But anyway, there you go. I cross-dressed all my life. And for people that, anybody hears this who knows about what cross-dressers do, they'll go through a period where they'll acquire a few nice things, a few intimate things, girl underwear, negligee, what have you, brasiers, some clothes, maybe a dress, 2, 3, 4. Wigs if they need them, I never did. Makeup. They do their cross-dressing, and then they'll purge. They'll hit this point where they're going, oh my God, I really got to stop this. It might be because I get into a new relationship. That was me. I'd get into a relationship with a girl where I'm like going, okay, I can stop this. This girl, I love her. This is awesome. I don't want her to catch me. For the love of God, that would be horrible. I blew that out of proportion because it would have been probably good for me to be caught by a girl. That would have been awesome. It would have forced me to
Or
come
just
to
be
terms
caught by someone understanding.
because I always thought that I was just a cross-dresser who had dreams of being a girl at night, every night. And I was not really thinking in terms of ever living as a woman, and I still don't. I still don't live as a woman. And I knew that there was some benefits to living as a guy in guy mode, and so I made that choice again. Part of that choice was, honestly, and to be truthful, at the time was made because I knew that if I did ever decide to live as a woman, my family would disown me. They would. Since then, I have had 4 siblings decide that they were going to leave the church and become atheists, or at the very least leave the church.
Right.
They're the one atheist. They're the one siblings that I can. Those siblings I can actually have a conversation with about this sort of thing. The rest of them,
and they'll still all be traumatized by the church and the conservatism and the right wing.
The rest of my siblings, I cannot have this conversation with in any scalable way. I've tried with at least one brother, my oldest brother, who I love dearly and who I've always looked up to. Tried to have this conversation with him, and he absolutely does not get it. It was that brother who went to my dad on his deathbed and said, "Oh, by the way, I just need to tell you, Paul said that all that crap last year about being transgendered, he decided it was just not really his thing. He's going to stay a male, and it's not a thing." When I found out that he did that, I was like, "Oh, well, maybe that was good for Dad. Maybe he could die thinking that." And it almost makes me hope that there's an afterlife, because I want my dad's ghost to look at me now and be like, going, "Man, no, Mark lied."
I would feel such burning, acidic betrayal from him.
It was easy for me to feel that, and I got over it very quickly.
I would not. I would have taken a scalpel and cut that from my life.
Well, I almost did. You see, because Mark and I have also had some difficult conversations since then, where I told him that it was if I could have my druthers, I would send the family to re-education to get the church ripped out of them. I want to destroy the church. I want to burn the Mormon church down. I want to shout on the loudest megaphone planet-wide that the Mormon church is a scam and stupid, and go into detail about how horrible it is and how damaging it is, and how damaged you need to be as a person to believe it, and all that, even though that'd be hyperbolic too. Because again, I want to acknowledge that Mormonism is not the end-all horrible thing. It's just a thing. It's okay. Or, it just leads to this.
Suffering and pain and trauma. No, that's not okay. There's nothing okay about any of that.
I need to say that it's the Mormon people, I should say. The Mormon people are okay. And it would just be great if they...
People can be okay. But when they've been traumatized since birth, they're no longer okay people. It would be good. It is like that whole...
The world will be a better place when all religion and mysticism is totally eradicated, and first up on that chopping block is Scientology. And right
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
Sorry, Tom Cruise. Yeah. I love you, buddy. But
may the emergent ones make that happen.
But your religion is full of nut bars. I don't know what that makes you, but I still love you, man.
Captain Nutbar. It makes him Captain Nutbar.
I love you some Tom Cruise.
Yeah, it makes him traumatized.
Yeah.
I think Tom Cruise is pretty awesome too, though.
Yeah. So there was the cross dressing, and it wasn't until I got with a particular girlfriend who was once again, I thought she was just the most amazing thing. She was probably one of the hotter girls that I ever dated in my life, but she was absolutely batshit crazy and borderline personality disorder. God love her. And her life, as near as I can tell, went completely to crap after I broke up with her. And I tried to just tell her what I was going through, and she raked me over the coals for that. She was the first girl. And so basically what happened after that relationship was I decided, okay, so I will not have a single I will not have another relationship with a girl ever unless I come out to her first. I'm going to do that much.
For your own sanity, I think that's a good
yes,
idea.
and so there you go. I had a handful of very, very short-term relationships with girls that didn't get sexual between her and the girl that I'm with now, and I never came out to them because it was like going,
Because it was
I
a
didn't want
mask.
to,
Yeah.
so I didn't let myself take them to the sack,
Right.
and with the girl I'm with now, uh, I did. I wanted her badly, and I knew that I wanted to tell her, so I told her, and she went through about a 3-week period of adjustment because she was not just thrilled by the notion off the bat. She is a Christian. I date a Christian.
I. Good luck to you. But
Well,
I've never had that work out.
yeah. I have an interesting idea about chicks, and I'll probably go into that in some detail later on because right now I really got to go. Damn it. I've got an errand to run. I don't know if I'm going to make it by 6.
I have lots of questions, but I'll let you. We'll do that on the second one.
As well, if there's any other questions from anybody that might happen to see this in the comments, shoot them to me because I know that there's more that I wanted to go into detail about this, and time's kind of killing it. But there you go. I've got 2 modes: guy mode and girl mode, and I live and breathe and work in guy mode all the time. So somebody could call me a glorified cross-dresser. Somebody could call me that. But the thing is, I'll tell you a little secret. Here's the secret for the viewers. I have what a guy would call gynecomastia. What I would call are just my breasts, but I have them. I'm an actual C cup. I strap those things down to work. Inside secret, I've had them all my life. I kept myself butt skinny all of my life to make sure that they never got as big as they are now. And then when I started working out with Sean, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is going to make it so that these don't have to show as actual boobs. I'll have pectorials. And I can flex them. I kind of still can, but
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But in those pectorials was little nipples that were just always right there, being nipples, actual breasty nipples, and still are. And as I have grown older, I've said, you know what, I'm going to stop fighting this. And they did develop.
Nice.
That I've never taken a single female hormone. Never been on a testosterone blocker. In fact, if anything, I was taking androstenedione. Is that how you say that? While we were working out.
Close.
I was taking things to aromatize more testosterone. And it never stopped these things from developing. Never stopped me from dreaming of being a woman. And so here you go.
Well, there's just a couple things I want to. First, I love you, and I support you.
Thank you.
And I worry about you.
You did say that. I know.
I think this is a scary time. I think you're a good channel for this, though. I think you're a good representative. There's Blair White and a lot of others.
Awesome. Abigail.
Not a fan of Blair White, but that's because of her politics, not because of her gender.
See now,
It's her.
politically though, I totally agree with Blair White.
Yeah, see, that's always going to be where we clash. The other thing I wanted to apologize if I was ever offensive or insensitive.
Oh, dude, you never were.
I don't think I remember us having a conversation, a joking kind of, wouldn't that be funny, as if we ever had to come back as women, we'd be lesbians. And as I'm remembering back to that, it seems clear that you were signaling something. And I don't know if you didn't say anything more after that because of my reaction, or because of anything insensitive I was expressing or a viewpoint I had. I've always tried to be inclusive. I don't want to sound cheesy, left-wingy. I always wanted people to live their best life. I always wanted to.
Wanting people to live their best life is as wanting to people to live their best life does, and you did that. You do that now.
Okay, so that was. I just wanted to make sure that because one of the questions and one of the things I want to talk about later, and I know you got to go, is why you didn't say anything to me when we had these conversations.
Dude.
And see, I don't want to get into this here because that makes it about me. But there's a lot of my personal experience to this, my memories, that because you just came out to me when you came out to everybody else. And I heard it initially from the grapevine, and I was thinking, there was an ex and her friends that were joking about Paul getting caught with a dress. And in my head at the time, I was like, really? I mean, okay, whatever. But there was a lot of cattiness, and there was, I think, pain from the ex there that was being expressed. But I heard it secondhand, third hand, and we were technically broken up at the time because I had other issues with you because of that, which we can get into later.
They're all related to this. Every last one of them. My behavior during all that period, from my 20s, 30s, all of it was stemming from this notion of being transgendered and just doing my utmost hell of trying to keep it covered in secret.
So I had a lot of confusion and frustration because of my ignorance and your actions, and because I didn't have all the information, and I am not a fully mature human being, so I don't handle a lot of stuff totally well.
It's okay.
But none of my issues were ever about any sexual orientation or what. I mean, God knows I used to wear some crazies. I still would, if I had the choice, wear leather tassel boots and spandex to the mall, and I would be a freak. I would still dress like a freak if I had more testicles, so to speak. So that was never an issue I had, but I had a lot of confusion, but at the end of the day, I really hope that I didn't hurt you because of any ignorance on my part.
No.
Okay. That was a big concern of mine. If I'm going to be a dick, I want to be a dick on purpose and not accidentally.
No.
Yeah, that was generally the two things. I know we're going to have to talk about this a lot more, or I hope we're going to talk about this a lot more. I'd like to talk about economy a lot less, politics a lot less, but it all comes into it.
It all comes around to it.
Yeah.
But at least with this base stuff out of the way, people are going to understand, you're going to understand why I have some of these ideas. And we're going to, at that point, then be able to better sell our viewpoint to somebody else, if that is our intention, which it by all means is. My intention is to sell my viewpoints. At the very least, put my ideas out there and let people judge for themselves.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get our viewpoints by accident. They're not arbitrary.
That's right.
I like to think the both of us, although I'm going to give you a little stare have got our opinions based on how we arrived there and not by how somebody told us to arrive there. Which I see too many people doing. Again, particularly in politics.
Well, it's an interesting thing. You remember the old parable about the 6 blind men trying to figure out what the elephant was?
Roughly.
The 6 blind men are looking around at the elephant, and one of them's sure that he's touching a tree, and one is sure that he's touching a piece of rope, and one of them is sure that he's touching a piece of leather, and one is sure that he's, touching on a hose, and probably many other things. Every one of those blind men for sure that what they believed was self-evident. So a lot of times we're going to come at our belief system, our value system, how we see things, and we're just going to think, this is totally self-evident. Oh. And the way we can break out from that is to just entertain that notion of another universe where what that other person is saying is actually true. You're going, I see that this is my universe, and I see it, and I don't want to try to make it sound like it's more multiverse than it is, because we're not talking about that. It's just how it is. But if I'm living in a world where I'm just going to reach out for one here real quick, since it's such an appropriate time for it. If I'm living in a world where I don't believe there is any what's the word? Oh my God. Apartheid being committed by the Israelis on the Palestinians. If I'm living in that world where I believe that, right? And then I hear somebody saying there's Israelis committing apartheid on Palestinians, I'm going to have to go, okay, let me just imagine that universe, that world for a second, and imagine the implications of that world and what it would be like in that world if that were true. Oh. And that way I can go, okay, so what would that world look like? What would be the socioeconomic, political issues of that world? And that way I don't have to be completely blindsided when Hamas airdrops across the border out of the Gaza Strip and into Israel or whatever country you want, and starts committing atrocities. There can be some certain sense made of that. Obviously, there's lots of people who just know for sure that apartheid is a thing. There are other people who are absolutely positive, no apartheid. So we want to know the truth. And the only way that we can know the truth is to really not just delve into what's going on and talk and ask people, maybe even travel to the location, which I'm game to do. But we also need to just entertain what that world would look like. What does that world look like where there is apartheid? Okay, that's a world. And what does that world look like where there is not apartheid? Oh, that's a world too. And now we can start to get a sense of what this elephant in the room really is.
I wish us all luck.
Me too. I got a jam, dude.
All right. I'm glad we did this.
Me too. I don't feel like I've got anything off my chest.
Nope. That's going to take another 20 podcasts.
For me, it would take surgery. And
yes.
It's not a surgery I'm inclined to do. In fact, I don't mean to brag or anything like that, but seriously, I'm hitting an age where they're probably just going to be bigger and more difficult to strap down. There's probably going to become a situation in my life in the next few years where I won't be able to hide them anymore. It'll be funny.
Yeah. Don't even bother. Let it go. But not until after the next election cycle.
Right. I want to get my hairline fixed.
Gene doping is coming. Gene manipulation. Hopefully we'll be able to become whatever it is that we think we want to become.
A younger version of me, female.
Awesome. I figured that's what you were going for. Fingers crossed that's able to happen, and we just have to survive to live to get there. And I've I think you have a chance.
Fingers crossed for both of us. And I'm even crossing my fingers for your dad, because what the heck, why not?
Why not?
Right, dude. I love you, bro.
All right, I
And
love
to
you too.
everybody out there, thank you for putting up with us. You guys are awesome. All 7 of you.
Peace. Yeah, awesome.
Have a good one.